This is Realtor Dennis L. Hubbard with the February 2020 Market Report, courtesy of my friends at Keeping Current Matters. Every month, I bring you the latest real estate news in a detailed real estate market report, much like this one. In between, my channel features short real estate-related videos on a variety of topics. So check them out, click that thumbs up, and hit that subscribe button. So, let's start with the news as we always do, this time with one quick slide on the possibility of recession this year. Here's an interesting stat. This is the actual percentage of economists in the Wall Street Journal survey of economists that believed a recession was going to take place sometime in 2020 or before. Back in 2018, that number stood at 67%. 2 out of 3 economists thought that by the end of this year, we'd have a recession. Going back just a couple of months, October 2016, still more than 1 out of 3 thought we were going to have a recession at 34.2%. But in last month's survey, only 14.3% believed we were going to have a recession this year. In fact, during my March 2019 report, which is still available here on YouTube, I spoke a lot about the possibility of recession. We're still in one of the longest economic recoveries in United States history. For a long time, experts genuinely believed that we would be heading into a recession by now. We all know another recession is going to happen at some point. But for the last few months, economists keep pushing that prediction further and further back. The interesting thing is one of the reasons they're pushing it back is the fact that the housing industry is doing as well as it is. Here's some information from ShowingTime's latest buyer traffic report. They said that showing numbers confirmed that year-over-year buyer activity has increased substantially. And it's increased in every single region. The South, the Northeast, the West, here in the Midwest, we're seeing far more buyer traffic this year than we did at the same time last year. As a matter of fact, Lawrence Yun, the chief economist at the National Association of Realtors, said we saw 2019 come to a close with the economy churning out 2.3 million jobs, mortgage rates below 4%, and housing starts ramp up to 1.6 million on an annual basis. If these factors are sustained in 2020, we will see a notable pickup in home sales in 2020. So, what are we talking about here? People want to buy houses. The recent trend has shown the millennials are even out because they've reached that age where they want to purchase a home too. Across the country right now, buyer activity is very strong. This map here shows the results from the National Association of Realtors survey. We can see that in almost every single state across the country, buyer traffic is doing well. But when we go to seller traffic, we see that activity falls off dramatically. So the amount of people looking to purchase a house is increasing dramatically. But the amount of people ready to sell their house isn't reaching those same levels. That's underscored by what George, the senior economist at Realtor.com, said at the beginning of January. The market is struggling with a large housing undersupply. The number of homes for sale are poised to reach historically low levels. That's what he said more than 4 weeks ago, and the new numbers have since come in. Housing inventory fell to historically low numbers. If we take a look at the number of homes for sale, it's at 1.4 million. That was last seen in 1993. The month supply of inventory dropped to 3.0 months. Realtors who have been in the business for 35 years have never seen it hit 3 months, and it might actually fall lower than that. Bill McBride from Calculated Risk actually addressed the issue because some people might say, well, it's December, it's the time of year when a lot of people take their house off the market. That explains the drop in inventory. Well, inventory always decreases sharply in December as people take their homes off the market for the holidays. However, based on the data I've collected, this was the lowest level for inventory in the last 3 years. The previous low was 1.43 million in December of 1993. End quote. So again, we have the lowest number of houses for sale since 1993. Here's a graph showing the month's supply of inventory going back to 2011. Now obviously, right after the housing crash, inventory skyrocketed. There were more and more houses coming on the market and less purchasers ready to buy them. So, between 2011 and 2012, you see we hit almost 10 months of inventory. That means with no additional homes coming onto the market, it would have taken nearly 10 months to sell just the existing inventory. But if you take a look at where that red dot is right now, you can see that 3 months inventory has not been this low since well before 2011. A colleague of mine that has 35 years in this industry told me he had never seen inventory this low, and it's hitting every single price point. This is the year-over-year inventory declines. For any house under $200,000, the amount of inventory is 18.1% less than it was this same time last year. From $200,000 to $750,000, it's 10.2% down, and from $750,000 up, it's still down 4.4%. So what we're looking at is across the board, at every price range, there's less inventory now than there was last year. Now, I know that new construction is really starting to take off. In fact, I'm currently working with a newlywed couple who are about to close on a piece of vacant land on which they're going to build their family home. And I'm really, really happy about that. But on a macro level, we have to understand how far behind new construction is. Here are the number of single-family home construction starts in each of the last several decades, from the 60s to the 2010s. Look at how out of place the 2010s are. And remember, the 2010s decade has wrapped up. What we can see, obviously, and this is per million population, we have almost half as many new housing starts than in each of the previous 5 decades. So not a lot of new construction over the last 10 years, and that's part of the reason we have such a shortage today. Now the good news is this, quote, the sales pace on newly built single-family homes ended 2019 with a gain of 10%, increasing to a total of 681,000. This marks 2019 as the best year for new home sales since the Great Recession. That's Robert Dietz, chief economist. So, the good news? Builders are starting to build again. Now, even if you're working with an agent who doesn't have a lot of connections with builders, understand that the new construction inventory can help that mid-move-up buyer. That's the mid-range buyer in terms of price point that wants to move up to a bigger or better house. Because why aren't they listing their current house? Well, there's a lot of first-time home sellers that aren't listing their house. And the reason is they can't find the perfect home to move to. Now, new construction could be the answer to that. Now, you might be saying, wait, Dennis. I saw your March 2019 market report video. You had a quote from Ivy Zelman predicting inventory expansion. I thought we were finally getting back to everything being okay. Now, all of a sudden, we have a shortage of inventory again? Probably the best explanation I could find to that was from Skylar Olsen, the Director of Economic Research at Zillow. A year ago, a combination of government shutdown, stock market slump, and a mortgage rate spike caused a long-anticipated inventory rise. That supposed boom turned out to be a short-lived mirage as buyers came back into the market and more than erased the inventory gains. As a natural reaction, the recent slowdown in home values looks like it's set to reverse back. Remember, we're talking about going through almost all of 2019 with prices that were moderating. We're talking about it coming back down to a normal market. Not that we were going to see depreciation, but the level of appreciation was decelerating. Instead of getting 6 or 7% year-over-year appreciation, we were looking at 3 to 3.5%. Well, it looks like that is reversing. And price appreciation, it's starting to go back up again. Here's the regional year-over-year change in price from the Federal Housing Finance Agency, their price index report. And we can see in each region, now remember, historical numbers for annual appreciation in residential real estate is 3.6%. And we can see here every single region beat that 3.6% normal appreciation. So prices are still very strong, especially in my region where we've seen 5.2% growth. If we break it down further to take a look state by state based on that same FHFA report, we can still see prices have been strong in every state in the country, including 5.8% here in Michigan. Now that's the FHFA. Let's take a look at CoreLogic's year-over-year change in price. Now notice some of the data is a little bit different, like 5% in Michigan rather than 5.8%. Don't let that confuse you. It's how they calculate the data and their cutoff dates and all that. But the important thing is that both entities, both the government agency and the FHFA and the publicly owned CoreLogic, are seeing prices increasing over year over year at a greater rate than just last month. Going forward, CoreLogic is forecasting that across the United States, we're going to see 5.4% growth. Not that 3.5 or 3% growth that we were expecting in the middle to end of last year, but for the next 12 months, prices will go up nationally by about 5.4%. And they broke it down state by state. Each state looks very strong. Growth in Michigan is projected to increase by about 7.4%. The big question is always going to be, well, do you still think there's a small chance prices might depreciate? If that was the case, your state would be red. And I assure you, all 50 states, including my home state, Michigan, are on that map, and none of them are red. But let's not just take FHFA or CoreLogic, their words for it. Let's take a look at some other sources of information. Here are several entities who also have home prices projected to continue to appreciate. Home Price Expectations Survey, Mortgage Bankers Association, Zelman & Associates, Fannie Mae, the National Association of Realtors, and Freddie Mac, each of them projecting the U.S. prices are going to go up each of the next 2 years. And in the case of the Home Price Expectations Survey, each of the next 3 years. So even though these numbers are slightly lower than the FHFA and CoreLogic projections, there's no doubt we're going to see prices continue to appreciate. And I think we'll end up near the higher end of those ranges. Why? We have a situation where there's not enough inventory to satisfy the buyers. It's a simple matter of an imbalanced supply and demand. Now, some people might get concerned that these rising prices could push out many buyers. That's a misconception. Many incorrectly believe when real estate values are increasing, owning a home becomes less affordable. That's not necessarily true. In most cases, homes are purchased with a mortgage. The current mortgage rate is a major component of the affordability equation. Mortgage rates have fallen by a full percentage point since the beginning of last year. Another piece of that equation is the buyer's income. The median family income has risen by 5% over the last year, contributing to that affordability factor. Black Knight mentions this in their latest mortgage monitor. They go further to address the issue of affordability with this quote. Despite the average home price increasing by nearly $13,000 from just over a year ago, the monthly mortgage payment required to buy that same house has actually dropped by 10% over that same span due to falling interest rates. Put another way, prospective homebuyers can now purchase a $48,000 more expensive home than a year ago while still paying the same in principal and interest, a 16% increase in buying power. By the way, the links for all the data that I present in this video will be at the end of this presentation and in the description below. You can fact check every piece of information for yourself. Remember that even though prices are going up, that doesn't mean the cost to you on a monthly basis is going up as well. Outside of home prices, there are other factors that can change your mortgage payment. Mortgage insurance requirements, the interest rate, which is a gigantic one, the down payment size, the credit score, your debt to income ratio. Going back to that big one, interest rate, if interest rates are going down, even if the prices are going up, you're still going to be in good shape. We can see that they're projecting that interest rates are going to stay under 4% for this year and next year. Quote, we expect mortgage rates to remain low over the next 2 years, averaging 3.8% in 2020 and 2021. Those are Freddie Mac's numbers. You can see where interest rates have been over the last couple of decades. Let's take a look at history to remind us of how good we really do have it right now. In the 70s, rates were up over 8%, the 80s over 12%, 90s still over 8%, and 2000s, they were over 6%. It wasn't until the 2010s, after that crash where the government started messing around with their interest rate policy, trying to keep the government moving, which led to lower interest rates on mortgages, getting down to about 4%. Now, here in 2020, we're even below what they were thought throughout the 2010s. What that means is, considering the dramatic improvement in home affordability we've seen over the last year, if you're even thinking about buying a house, you should definitely jump in. Now, earlier we mentioned how few homes are on the market right now. Let's make sure we understand one of the main reasons that's taking place. Here's the median seller tenure in their home since 1985, which is when this data started being collected. How long have people stayed in their houses? We can see 1985 all the way through 2008, people stayed in their house on average of 6 years, almost exactly 6 years. But then after the crash, due to a variety of reasons, loss of equity being a big one, people would stay in their houses much longer. Instead of averaging 6 years staying in their house, it jumped to 9 years. Add in the fact that new home construction starts have been so low over the last decade, the overall amount of homes that came to the market obviously decreased. It's not that people don't want to sell, it's often that they have no home to buy, which is causing them to stay in their home for so long. So we have to help that pent-up seller demand. The people that would normally have sold already but stayed in their house should know now might be the time. Many of those people stayed because they didn't know if they had the equity to move on. They might still not know how much equity they have in their home. Notable financial guru Dave Ramsey said this: "When it comes to market prices for sellers, the main question is, how much money can I make on my home sale?" Well, the new numbers for 2019 just came out. Sellers realized a home price gain of $65,500 on a typical sale. This marked the highest level in the U.S. in over 13 years. The average homeowner, when they sold their home, walked away with an extra $65,000. If you're one of those people who has been in their house for a long period of time, you need to know exactly what the equity situation is in your home. Because if you understand that, you might realize that you do have the cash to make a move into maybe that dream home that you've always wanted, or maybe downsize to the perfect fit for your current needs and budget. In either case, you want to do that while interest rates are still low. Good news is more and more surveys are coming out showing that it's a great time to sell your house. As a matter of fact, the percentage of people from the NAR Home Survey and the Fannie Mae Home Price Survey both agree, in one case 3 out of 4, the other 2 out of 3, that this is a good time to sell your home. When we look at it across generations, while 2 out of 3 millennials know it's a good time to sell their home, from Gen X all the way up, they, from a 3 out of 4 or more, find that Generation X, young boomers, older boomers, the silent generation, all understand that now is a good time to sell. If you're in the market to sell your home, let me help you make that decision by showing you how we can get some of the obstacles out of the way. One of those obstacles is when you hear 30-year mortgage and you're 60 plus years old, you might start thinking, well, I don't know if I could qualify now that I'm retired. And would a bank even give me a 30-year mortgage if I'm, say, 62 years old without that full-time job any longer? Justifiably, many retirees will wonder how they'll qualify with limited monthly earnings. Keep in mind, lenders are now qualifying older adults for a mortgage based on their pensions, their Social Security, and any interest that they're getting, whatever it is that's available to them. So yes, there's a very good chance that you're going to be able to get that mortgage, especially with the big down payment that you'll put down after selling your current house. If needed, older Americans who still have a monthly mortgage payment can still get a new mortgage. Borrowers over the age of 65 comprise about 10% of all mortgages that are originating each year. That's from Realtor.com. So yes, even that older seller can get a mortgage to move into the perfect house for them in their retirement, possibly reducing their overall monthly housing expense. In many cases, their equity may bike that purchase outright with no mortgage at all. As always, we have our resource center where we reveal the origin data. Because we give you a lot of information, I'm giving you the source for every single slide so that you can verify anything that was presented here. Whether it be a quote, whether it be a graph, whatever. So if anyone does question, where did this information come from? You have it right at your fingertips. It's important that we move forward right now, helping people understand what's really taking place in the market. My spring buyer and seller guides are going to be available on March 5th of next month. They're going to be 20 pages long and they're going to be filled with great content. Whether you're thinking about buying a house or whether you're thinking about selling a house, or both, there's 2 separate issues and you have that information. I want to make sure those magazines get into your hands. Reach out to me directly or visit my website at dennislhubbard.com to get your copy. To end, I want to go ahead and give a quote from Tamara Ingram. She's the global chair of Wunderman Thompson Group. "I wish we'd stop talking about data because data is fundamental. It's like the blood in our veins, and everyone's going to have it. But it's the application of the data. It's how we apply it to solving challenges which is more important than the thing itself. And that's what I do here. That's why you watch this video. I don't just give you a bunch of data. You can look the data up online. There's a lot of places right now just throwing information at everybody. It's the insights that come out of that data that matters. My approach is to help people make a better decision when they consider buying or selling a home by relating useful information in a relevant and accurate way. That's what I'm all about. That concludes the February 2020 monthly market report, made possible by Keeping Current Matters, an invaluable resource every realtor should gladly pay for. Until next month, I'm Dennis L. Hubbard. And oh, by the way, I wouldn't be a proper YouTuber if I didn't say, click that thumbs up and hit that subscribe button.